Hey, I hope everybody had a great Pi Day yesterday. I certainly did. And let's get right to the highlights for this week. It was a pretty busy week.
Syndergaard on the mound.
Well, as you can tell from the highlights, Karen the Weather Girl, her brother Chet, her sister-in-law Ocilia, we all went to see the Mets play Houston this week. And for you Mets fans, the report I've got to make is Syndergaard looked absolutely terrific. He was in there for 70 pitches. Robinson Cano, home run. Unfortunately, Nimmo and Conforto really didn't do anything, and Todd Frazier is hurt. So the Mets won. It was a decent game. Well, look, I've got a tip for you this week. Here you go.
Well, taking out the garbage is something that we all do at least once a week, sometimes twice. It depends on where you live. But the question is, are you doing it correctly? And I know a lot of you are, but I figured this would be a refresher. And for anybody who's a rookie at taking out garbage, this might be a great help. But let's start with preliminaries. First steps. Remember, we're really concerned with safety and hygiene. So the thing that you want to make sure that you do, and we'll start from the bottom up, make sure you're wearing really sturdy shoes. I like to use these running shoes with substantial arch support. Second, you want to take and use some basic, ordinary hygiene steps, and that includes these examination gloves. If it's a sunny day, you want to wear a hat, you want to wear sunglasses, and you want to put on plenty of sunscreen, a minimum of 15 SPS. I happen to use 50. Now what you do is make sure you get all the garbage out of the house and put it in the correct barrel. And you know you've got two barrels. One is for recycling, that communist plot, and that's blue, and the other gray is for, what you or I would consider garbage. Now, it doesn't matter what order you take these things out in. I mean, you can bring them out, the gray one first or the blue one first. So it makes absolutely no difference at all. So you bring them out, and what you do is after you get them out there, make sure that they're shoulder length apart, a minimum of shoulder length apart, because the truck is going to come by, put down some mechanical arms, and lift them into the truck. At least that's what happens down here in Florida. Some people go to extremes and separate them on opposite sides of the driveway, and that just makes the entire neighborhood look stupid. Now, once the trucks have come by, which typically is at the end of the day, you just reverse the entire process and bring them in. And if you do that, you're going to have a safe and successful putting out of the garbage. Now, I hope these tips, these refreshers are helpful to you. And let me know in the comments what you think.
Well, after I did the tip, what I realized was that it's really applicable only in Florida and places like it, where you got these trucks that come that are mechanical and so on. And they don't quite apply to, say, our condo in the Bronx where we got central garbage, or say even Eileen's apartment house in Manhattan. But I think there's certain principles having to do with safety, sanitation, and so on that are applicable no matter where you are. So maybe when I'm up in the Bronx, I'll supplement this tip with one that's more tailored to an urban environment. I've got a joke for you this week. Here it is. So a pirate goes into a bar. He's got a peg leg, he's got a hook on one of his arms, and he's wearing an eye patch. He orders a beer, and the bartender says, "Hey, how'd you get that peg leg?" And the pirate says, "Well, what happened was I was out of my ship, and a big wave came, and it knocked me overboard, and a shark came up and bit my leg off. But luckily, our ship has a great doctor, and that very night he was able to fit me up with this peg leg." "Well, how'd you get the hook?" So the pirate says, "Well, the next day I was out on deck and I'm getting used to the peg leg, and another wave comes up and I got washed over the side again, and a whale bit off the end of my arm. Well, they fished me out, brought me up, and once again, they happened to have a hook, and that very night the doctor was able to equip me with the hook." So the bartender says, "Oh, all right. Well, how did you get the eye patch?" So he says, "Well, the following day," he said, I was out on deck, and a seagull came along. I looked up at him, and he shit right in my eye." So the bartender says, "Bird shit caused you to lose your eye?" And the pirate said, "Well, it was actually my first day with the hook." Well, that pretty much concludes this week's recap. But before I get off, I want to make a suggestion to you. And the suggestion is that you sign up for Instagram and you follow me on Instagram. But what happens is this is, as you can tell, a pretty fast-paced environment down here in Florida. And there are sometimes photos and videos that don't quite rise to the level, the caliber of the stuff that goes on in the recap. But what I do, it's still interesting, it's still informative, it's sometimes entertaining. And what I do is I post them on Instagram. Now, if you sign up for Instagram, you can follow me at Edward_McKeever. I thoroughly recommend that you do that. And as I say, I think you'll get additional information, additional breaking news, and so on. Follow me on Instagram. But in the meantime, whether you do or not, make sure that you have a great weekend and have a great week coming up. That's this week's recap.